What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and in today's video I have an amazing lease deal to share with you all. Right now you can lease a 2024 Acura ZDX A-Spec for just $319 a month. Yes, you heard that right, $319 a month with just $4,999 due at signing. So if you're in the market for an electric vehicle, or if you're in the market for a Acura ZDX, I think you'll get a lot of value from this video, because what we'll do in this video, in the first part of this video, what we'll do is we'll look at the national lease offer on this Acura ZDX, and I'll really dive deep and get into all the nitty gritty details. We'll talk about the mileage allowance. We'll talk about how you can get your monthly payment that low with the Conquest or Loyalty offer. I'll go over everything that you need to know. And then in the second part of this video, what we'll do is we'll run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this car. And my 1.25% rule of leasing is just a value metric that I use to show you guys how good a lease deal is in terms of value. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll quickly look at the monthly finance payments on this car if you were to finance it, and we'll compare it to the monthly lease payments. And I'll show you why leasing this Acura ZDX is a financial no-brainer, and it just makes a lot of financial sense. So if that sounds good to you, please be sure to like this video, and please be sure to follow or subscribe. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the Acura website. And as you can see here, I have my zip code plugged in, 98101, which is a Seattle area zip code. And then it gives you all of the relevant lease offers and lease specials that are relevant to your zip code. Now, as you can see here, the first lease offer that we have here is for $389 a month. And then we have a $489 offer. And then down here, we have the lease offer that we're going to look at. So right now, you can lease a 2024 ZDX A-Spec rear-wheel drive, 1-speed automatic for just $319 a month, ladies and gentlemen. That's an amazing deal. This is a 27-month lease that requires $4,999 due at signing. Now, let's go ahead and click on offer details so that we can read the fine print on this lease. Now, as you can see here, this lease deal is eligible for residents of California, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Delaware, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Virginia, or VT is Vermont, and Washington. So if you don't live in those states, it's not that you can't get this lease deal. I would just plug in your zip code and you might get this lease offer. So what it looks like is this lease offer is regional. Now, if we go ahead and continue reading the fine print, you'll see that if we just look here, you'll see that this is a specialty loyalty and conquest lease. Now, with conquest, what that essentially means, in just basic terms, is that if you own like a competitor's vehicle, you're eligible for a conquest rebate. And in this case, the conquest rebate is $4,000. As you can see right here, it says loyalty conquest offer of $4,000 is applied as a capitalized cost reduction. So either if you already own an Acura, or I don't know if Honda's included, but an Acura product, you can get this $4,000 lease credit, or as you can see here, if you're a qualified current owner of a 2014 or newer, and this isn't just you, this could be someone in your household, newer Acura, Audi, BMW, Cadillac, Chevrolet, Ford, Genesis, Honda, Hyundai, Infiniti, Kia, Lexus, Mazda, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Polestar, Rivian, Subaru, Tesla, Toyota, Volkswagen, or Volvo vehicle. So that's pretty much covering, I'd say 90% of the brands out there. In terms of what people actually drive on a day-to-day. So if you own any of those vehicles, 2014 or newer, you can get this price of $319 a month. Now, you'll also see that this lease offer is based on an MSRP of $65,850. And one other thing that I want to cover here is that you'll see this total due at signing of $4,999. Now, just because a lease ad, so there's two things I want to mention here. Just because a lease ad says $4,999 due at signing doesn't mean that you have to put down $4,999. You can negotiate this number down, and truly you should try to negotiate this number as close to zero, or at zero if possible. Like, hypothetically, what I like to do is not put anything down. You just want to pay your first month's payment, the acquisition fee, and then any registration and taxes, right? And that's kind of what you want to pay to start your lease. And oftentimes you can even roll all of those fees into your lease as well, and that's what we call a true sign and drive. But in any case, you don't want to put the $5,000 due at signing. Now, another thing I want to mention here is that this $4,999, it doesn't include the taxes that you'll have to pay on rebates, right? So if we actually go down and look here, you'll see that this vehicle has the $7,500 EV tax credit. We have the launch lease support of $6,300. I'm not sure if that's an actual rebate. And then we have a $4,000 loyalty conquest offer. So we're looking, at minimum, we're looking at about $11,500 in rebates if we take the EV tax credit and this $4,000 conquest rebate. Now here in the city of Seattle, you're going to have to pay taxes of about 10% on that. So $1,100, you're looking at about $11,000. You're looking at about $1,150 that's going to be due at signing. And then on top of that, you're going to have to pay registration for this vehicle. And here in the city of Seattle, you're probably looking at about $1,000, give or take. So let's just call it $2,000 that you'll have to pay additional at signing on top of this $4,999. That really depends on where you live, right? So the tax rates here in Seattle are generally higher. Our registration costs are generally higher comparing to the rest of the country. So here you're looking at about $2,000 to $2,500. Let's just call it $2,000 on top of this $4,999 that's due at signing. So I think a lot of times, this number right here can be misleading because a lot of people just assume that, hey, if Acura is saying $5,000 due at signing, that's all that's due at signing. But remember, registration, taxes are due on top of this amount. Now, if we look down here, you'll also see that this lease allows for just 7,500 miles a year. Now, maybe if you live in the city, or if this is your second car and you and your partner maybe work from home, 7,500 miles may suffice. But just remember that you can get a 10,000 mile a year lease, you can get a 12,000 mile a year lease, and you can get a 15,000 mile a year lease. I would say if you went to 10,000 miles a year on this lease, I would say the payment would probably go up between $20 and $30, and then another $20 or $30 if you went to 12,000 miles a year, which still makes this a tremendous lease value. And I'm just kind of guesstimating here. It may be a little bit less, it may be a little bit more, but I think about $20 to $30 is, based on my experience, that's what I would assume. And just as a reminder, it's much cheaper to get 10,000, 12,000, or 15,000 miles a year up front rather than paying the excess mileage penalty of 20 cents a mile. So there's a little tip that can help you save some more money. And the last thing that I want to mention is that this lease deal is good until October 31st, 2024. So you still have, a lot of time, about 21 days. Now in this part of the video, what I want to do is bust out the calculator and I want to run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Acura. Now with my 1.25% rule of leasing, if you get a number under 1.5%, that's a good lease deal. If you get a number under 1.25%, that's a great lease deal. And if you get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal. And typically if you get a number over 1.5%, you're really pushing into territory where maybe financing a particular vehicle makes more sense than leasing it. So let's go ahead and run my 1.25% rule of leasing. And you guys can follow along, and you can do this for any lease that you're shopping for, not just for this Acura. So what we'll do is we'll take the $4,999 that's due at signing, and what we'll do is we'll subtract the monthly payment of $319 since that's already included in the due at signing amount, and that gives me $4,680. Now what I'm going to do is divide this by 27 since this is a 27-month lease, and that gives me $173. Now what I'll do is I'll add the monthly payment of $319 back in, and this is my monthly payment without sales tax, but it's inclusive of all other fees. And then I'll multiply this by 1.1 to account for sales tax on the payment. And that gives me a monthly payment with $0 down, not accounting for the taxes that you'll have to pay on registration, or taxes that you'll have to pay on rebates, and registration fees. That would be separate, but this gives me a zero down payment of $541 a month. And if I divide this by this vehicle's MSRP, which is $65,850, and I multiply this by 100 to convert it to a percentage, I get 0.82%. So ladies and gentlemen, remember, anytime you're under 1.5%, good lease deal. Under 1.25%, great lease deal. Under 1%, amazing lease deal. And as you can see here, this Acura ZDX is an amazing lease deal at 0.82%. Now, let's actually factor in, the taxes, and let's actually factor in the registration costs. So what we'll do is we'll take the $4,999. So I'm going to rerun this with those factors, and then I'll add $2,000 to this just to account for registration and taxes on rebates. And this is typically due up front. And that gives me $6,999. Now what I'll do is I'll subtract the monthly payment of $319. I'll divide this by 27 since this is a 27-month lease. And then I'll add the monthly payment of $319 back in. I'll multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax. That gives me an effective monthly payment of $623. Now when we talk about effective monthly payment, this means this would be your monthly payment with $0 down, nothing due at signing, all fees, all taxes rolled into the monthly payment, and this is your effective monthly payment, would be around $623. And if I divide this by this vehicle's MSRP, which is $65,850, and multiply by 100, you can see that this is still a sub 1% lease deal, which makes it an amazing lease deal. And another thing that I want to point out here to all of you watching is that you can still negotiate this lease deal down. So as it's written, it's a sub 1% lease deal, and it's a sweet lease deal as it's written. But just because this is written this way doesn't mean that you can't negotiate this even lower. Based on my experience and what I want all of you guys to do to save as much money as possible is try to negotiate this lease deal down even further. Now, some dealers aren't even going to offer you this deal, or they're not going to honor this deal, but other dealers are, and some dealers will even reduce the price from this national lease ad. And those are the deals that we're looking for, right? If you're shopping for a car, like, why not save as much money as you can? But even as this deal is written, like I said, this is an awesome lease deal. Like if I was shopping for this car and a dealer gave me this offer and I got it as written, I don't think you did bad at all, and I think that's an awesome lease deal. Now, in this section of the video, what I want to do is compare the monthly finance payments if you were to finance this car for 72 months versus the monthly lease payment. So let's use a selling price of the MSRP, which is $65,850. Let's do a 72-month term at 0.9%. Let's not put any money down. We don't have any trade-ins. As far as the state, let's go ahead and put Washington. Sales tax rate of 10%. And then let's roll in $2,000 of title registration and other fees into the monthly payment, because that's what you do when you finance a car. And if we hit calculate, you'll see that the monthly payment on this car, if you were to finance it, would be $1,062, and that's compared to $623 if we were to lease this car. And this is the $623 is the effective monthly payment. Yes, this is with 7,500 miles, but even if we did 10 or 12,000 miles, let's say we did 12,000 miles and the monthly payment went to $700 a month, you're still saving $360 a month. And a monthly savings of $360 a month times 27, you're saving $9,720 over 27 months. Now, some of you may say, hey, Ravi, but at $65,850, nobody's paying that for this car. Okay, let's just say you got a discount of $10,000. Maybe a dealer will give it to you, maybe they won't. But even if you have a selling price of $55,850, you're still at $905 versus a lease payment of $623. And let's just call it $700 if you did a 12,000 mile a year lease. So ladies and gentlemen, you're saving substantial money by leasing this vehicle. And remember, when you finance this vehicle, you don't get the $7,500 EV tax credit, but when you lease it, you do. So if you're in the market for an Acura ZDX, I think this is a tremendous offer. We will try to get some of these on DriveMatch.com, and if you guys haven't checked out DriveMatch.com, be sure to do so, because on DriveMatch.com, you can get pre-negotiated lease deals. You don't have to do any negotiation, and every single lease deal that we have on there has been vetted by myself and by my team. So if it's not a good lease deal, It's not on drivematch.com. And another thing I want to mention is that if you're shopping for a Tesla, I do have my Tesla referral code in the description below, and you can save $1,000 on your next Tesla, whether you're purchasing or whether you're leasing. And another thing I want to mention about this Acura ZDX is the gas savings. So, if you charge at home on a level 2 charger, your monthly gas bill might increase by 50 or 60 bucks a month compared to, if this were a gas equivalent vehicle, you're probably looking at about $200 to $250 a month in gas that you'd have to spend. So be sure to factor in those savings as well the next time you're shopping for an EV, because that brings your effective monthly payment from $623. Your effective monthly payment with gas savings, you're definitely sub $500. You're probably more in the $450 a month range, which really makes this lease deal that much better. But if you have any questions about leasing, and if you have any questions about this ZDX lease or Drive Match, be sure to drop them in the description below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you all for watching. Financial knowledge is power, and please like and follow for more.